Do you consider yourself a high achiever? Smart, driven, highly successful? I am so excited to have you. My name is Julia Arndt and I'm the host of the Stressed podcast. I will help you develop your stress resilience the same way you've developed your workplace superpowers. Learn peak performance tools to thrive at work and in your personal life. Let's get started. Hello and welcome back to Stressed. I'm really excited to have a really special podcast interview guest in the show today. Diana, welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, I'm really excited to have you. We met last year in Costa Rica for a yoga teacher training, and we talked a lot about, our coaching businesses, and you focus on highly sensitive people. And I think it's a topic that a lot of people are curious about, and maybe a lot of people don't really know about, like they don't really know what highly sensitive people are and how to deal kind of just with that kind of specific trait. So I'm really excited to talk with you about this today. Thanks so much for making the time.
Absolutely, it's my pleasure.
All right, so let's get started with maybe tell us a little bit about yourself and what you've been up to today.
Like she said, my name is Diana Eisiminger, and I live in Napa, California. I've been here for a little over 3 years now. My husband is from Napa, and we moved here 3 years ago. And I'm originally from Northwest Iowa, and I grew up on a pig farm all of my life, and that's always a fun little fact that I like to share with people because it throws people off a little bit. They're like, where'd you come from?
Mm-hmm.
And I've just been on this healing journey for, probably 7 years now. And I'm just really grateful to be where I'm at this point in my life. I feel like I've grown a lot. I've really created a life that I want to live, and that's my choosing. And I felt like before my healing journey happened, it was not by my choosing. It was by other standards, other people's choices. And so, I'm
a little curious about this. So tell us more about, maybe you said that 7 years ago you started this healing journey. What was the starting point, or what happened in your life that you were like, I need to do something different?
It was actually, I like to call it a universal kick in the pants, because within 6 months of themselves, I had been in a car accident. I was rear-ended, and I was diagnosed with a rare skin autoimmune disease. And I also took a food sensitivity test to tell me I had 21 different food sensitivities. So I was kind of all over the place. My health was really bad. My energy was really low, and I had these dreams for myself where I wanted to take my life, but I really didn't have the energy to put into those dreams. And so, the universe, I feel like, gives us signs, and that was my sign, where it just like woke me up and was reality. Like, it was a mortality check, really. It was saying, you're human, and you could be taken any day and live life to the fullest. So I intuitively knew that I wanted to heal naturally and holistically, and was really just drawn to that world initially. I went to Western medicine to help me diagnose what was going on with me first and foremost. But then I reached out to like chiropractic care initially, and then eventually that morphed into physical therapy that didn't really have the effect that I was hoping it would. And I was drawn to like movement exercises, and I eventually found yoga, and that then led me to meditation, and then that led me to like energy healing and just mindset, belief shifts, those sorts of things. And so just being in daily, chronic pain, daily headaches, neck and back pain, just low energy and digestion issues, it was just a recipe for disaster, really. So I started by, getting my inflammation under control. I used my diet to help with that, along with yoga and meditation and supplements. And I actually was able to heal myself within a year's time. I mean, it was a lot. It was so overwhelming at the time, and I was very much alone in that process. And I remember thinking so many times, like, I wish there was somebody out there that could just help me through what I'm going through and just be there for support and guidance. And so eventually that's where I got into health coaching and gut health, specifically with health coaching. And I'm also a trained yoga teacher. So, yeah.
That's great. And so it sounds like those 7 years ago, because you said one thing that you said as well was that people made decisions for you and then you started to make decisions for yourself. Was that related to health, or was it also related to like your career?
Because I'm a highly sensitive person, now that I'm realizing that, I gave my power away in a lot of ways to my family members. I was a people pleaser. I call myself a recovering people pleaser because I love helping people. I really, really, truly do. And that's what brought me to health coaching and teaching yoga. But it was before I was doing things because others wanted me to. I would drop what I was doing in a heartbeat if somebody asked me for help. And I grew up on a farm, and there's always something going on a farm, constantly chores to do. And so I was always feeling like I had to take care of other people before I could take care of myself. So this car accident and the autoimmune and such really led me to like taking care of myself for the first time. Before I was giving the care to other people. I was like asking other people. I wasn't even asking other people for what I needed. I just kind of thought like they would maybe catch on to what I needed, and my needs were never really truly met because I wasn't taking care of myself. So that's I think what I meant when I said that.
Interesting. Okay. So now we've already kind of evolved a little bit around the topic, but there's 2 questions I want to talk with you about. The first thing, of course, is what is a highly sensitive person? And then the second one is when did you learn about HSPs and realize that you were one and that you maybe needed to pay different attention to yourself?
Yeah. So what I've learned, and a highly sensitive person is what HSP stands for. And it's a type of person who is highly sensitive to their environment, and meaning we're highly responsive or highly adaptive, like chameleons. I always felt like I was a chameleon in any circumstance that I was in. And I didn't really understand what that was about me, but I liked it. I liked to be able to connect with everybody around me. But that also comes with the burdens of being highly sensitive. It truly is a gift, I'm realizing now. But before I understood it, it was less of a gift to me. It was more of like feeling drained emotionally, regularly, and energetically drained, and being just sensitive. My feelings were hurt really easily as a child, even into high school. I was always very quick to cry emotionally, and so back to what a HSP is, this amazing book that changed my life, reading it, is called The Highly Sensitive Person by Elaine, Aron. And she studied HSPs, and she found that it's, in 20% of the population. So, the majority of the world is not HSP. And so I'm living in a non-HSP world, very confused about trying to be a non-HSP, basically. And so, again, back to what an HSP is, she explains in a really beautiful acronym, DOES does. And that stands for depth of processing. So we have we take in everything around us, and we have a really deep processing ability. And that also means we have a strong intuition. Doesn't mean it's a perfect intuition, but strong intuition. So knowing something without exactly knowing how we know. And apparently our brains actually work a little bit differently than non-HSPs, which is really fascinating. I was reading some research studies yesterday about it, and it's super fascinating. But yeah, we're just really in tune with our inner world, with the outer world, and the experience of both at the same time. So picking up on, you know, everything. And the O stands for overstimulation. So we can be, because we're processing so much, we become overstimulated really easily, unless we're tapped into our energy and ground ourselves in, you know, our strengths, and know when is enough, when to take time for ourselves, when to, you know, take a break, those sorts of things. So
yeah, one of the things that I found really interesting when I first heard about HSPs was that everybody has like a different kind of ability. So maybe one person is maybe more overstimulated by hearing more, like being more sensitive to noise. Another person might be more sensitive to smell or like sight. So it's basically your five senses can be you know, can be involved with the HSP trait, and it doesn't have to be, can be one, it can be multiple, but oftentimes it's one trait that really sticks out for a person that gets really easily stimulated.
Yeah, exactly. And that also segues perfectly into what I was going to continue to say is we have, like I said, we have a strong intuition typically, and also a strong ability to be empathic. So we take on, we can feel what other people are going through. And not to say that a non-HSP can. I believe all humans have the empathic ability, but HSPs have a deeper ability to be empathic. And that's what makes us so, you know, drawn to taking care of others, helping others. And that also goes to say that that's both positive and negative experiences. So, you know, I personally, I really have a strict policy around like violence or like really high action movies or TV. I stay away from it like as much as possible, because it's too much. It drains my energy really quickly. It's overwhelming to me, overstimulating. And then the back to the acronym. So S, sensing the subtleties. So again, we're sensing everything around us, and we're picking up on the little things that other people won't necessarily, might not notice. And yeah, like what you're saying with the five senses, like some people have really strong sense of smell or sight or hearing, and it can make it really pleasurable, or it can make it really, really unpleasurable. Like being in a crowd, like I hate large crowds. Like I stay away from concerts really, unless I can be in the back or seated, those sorts of things. But yeah, it was really eye-opening learning all of these different traits and how it is for me and how it is for others. It was really interesting. Prior to me knowing I was an HSP, I had a lot of clients come to me, and, you know, working with them, and then learning that I was an HSP and learning about HSPs, I'm like, oh my gosh, like most of my clients are HSPs. And so, you know, like attracts like in that way. So yeah, I love meeting people who have those qualities. And you can be on the spectrum of HSP too. You could have like one or two traits of an HSP, but they're really, really, really strong. Or you could have all, you know, all of the different, not all, but a lot of the different characteristics, and be HSP too. So
yeah, I think it's super interesting. I actually learned about it the first time in a podcast as well, a German podcast that I'm following. And when I listened to the podcast, and that was the first time I heard about HSPs, I was like, oh my God, this makes so much sense. Like now I understand why I'm feeling the way I'm feeling. And I've never heard this before, and it really clicked with me, and it's made a big difference to create awareness around that I am an HSP, of course, and then how I can adjust to that. And for me, it's actually hearing. So I'm really, really sensitive to noise, and I needed to be really quiet at night in order to kind of reset, because as soon as there's a noise, as little as it is, I can hear it, and it drives me crazy. And I also need more sleep, or I think maybe HSPs in general. I'm curious to hear what you think about this, but I think I sometimes feel like I need more sleep in order to really, you know, that overstimulation, just kind of decrease that overstimulation again and get back to kind of my normal levels.
Yes, I completely agree. HSPs definitely need more sleep. I found that like 9 hours, although it sounds like a lot, 9 hours is kind of my general guideline. I try to get at least that much regularly. It also depends on time of the month and what's going on in my life. And because we process so much, we need more downtime, more rest. And that's also something that I've embraced, because I used to think, only 7.5 hours of sleep, that's all I need, go, go, go. And it's the very like masculine side of things. And I wasn't necessarily embracing the feminine side in me. And the more I embraced rest and downtime and alone time, especially, that's a big one for HSPs, is alone time. Just like having no outside stimulation, nobody else to think about, deal with, be around, is so important to sustaining our energy. And that's really, I feel like in my life, is all about learning how to manage my energy. Because I liken HSPs like having a really sensitive battery inside of us, and it can become drained really easily, and it can also be refilled, recharged really quickly, with the right sort of activities.
Yeah. So. And do you know, I'm sure a lot of people might be listening now and thinking, okay, so I get now what an HSP is, right? There's research, as you mentioned, that says that 20% are HSPs. And I think there's actually, they proved as well that there's something in the brain for HSPs where they have that more like that overstimulating kind of sense. Do you know what the difference is to introverts? So HSPs are not equal to introverts, right? There's, for example, also extroverted HSPs. I think 30 or 40% or something like that. What is maybe the main trait difference or something? Do you know?
So there is definitely a difference. Like you said, that there can be extroverted HSPs as well. I personally am an introverted HSP. And so that the introversion, meaning I get energy from being alone and from solitude and quiet, relaxing activities, and not being around other people. And not to say that being around other people doesn't give me energy, because it does. Certain types of people I'm really drawn to and will give me energy, working with clients, one-on-one sorts of things, or even small groups, but or loving friends, but it's more like quality, not quantity. And I feel like extroverts gain their energy from being around others and talking and being extroverted, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So it is different. It's similar in some ways, but it's definitely different.
Yeah, I think it's more the social piece. So you actually said that. I think it's more the social piece for introverts, extroverts, of like, how do you regain energy, versus HSP talks really more to that trait characteristic of your senses and how sensitive they are based on the trait, right? And then you're more sensitive to noise or more sensitive to hearing, but you could still be an extrovert, for example.
Exactly. It's all about the stimuli in your environment that you're picking up on as an HSP, for sure.
Yeah. And so I wanted to talk with you today a little bit about how HSPs can become peak performers or sustain their performance, because I think you already mentioned it multiple times, right? There's definitely more things that you need to be aware of when you are an HSP. So what are things that have really helped for you and that you might also recommend to your clients nowadays?
So understanding that you are an HSP first and foremost, and there's quizzes out there, and I actually created one which I can share the link with
Yeah,
you
that'd be great.
and
Yeah.
let your listeners take it. But first and foremost, awareness, just knowing that you are an HSP or on the spectrum, and knowing what gives, like understanding what gives you energy and also what drains your energy,
Mhm.
what you're sensitive to, just awareness in general. Our teachers that we went to teacher training with, they talked about how awareness heals, and that has stuck with me ever since that training. It just speaks volumes for me specifically, because when you're aware, you can take action in those areas of your life. So once you're aware what gives you energy and what's draining your energy, you can then shift things in your lifestyle, in the foods that you're eating, the environment that you're in, the people you're around, those sorts of things. And it's all about taking small actions, small daily actions is
Mhm.
preferable, to then add up to those bigger lifestyle changes, those that are bigger changes in your life. And then what I teach my clients is the next step from awareness is all about intention. So creating an intention of, I am going to take a break. I'm working for the next hour. I need to take a 20-minute break. I need to go outside, be in nature, or listen to soothing music, or whatever it is that is going to help you recoup your energy. And this mantra that I love so much, it's where my attention goes, energy flows,
Mhm.
and that just feeds this intention, right, of putting my attention, my awareness into taking care of my energy, so I can manage it throughout the day, so I don't feel exhausted and drained as often. There's going to be times where you become extremely exhausted, like having a big, you were traveling and you want to see all the sights, and you're so excited, you love it, you're in it, you're enjoying yourself, but at the end of the day, chances are, like for me, I would be exhausted and would not be ready to go out at night. I would need to stay in and just like relax. My college self, my high school self would not have done that. And I would have just like pushed through, and I would have been miserable.
Mhm.
So my 32-year-old self now, knowing this about me, can, take time for myself, knowing that is going to help my energy for the following day. And being more consistent in my everyday life, in my goals, which is what I think peak performance would be, is reaching the goals that you're setting for yourself, whether they're small or large goals, right?
Mhm.
And then the last piece to that is action, so which creates clarity. It's just taking action, and I talk about taking one action. Like before, I was finding, I would have clients create 3 actions, like a minimum of 3, and then I felt like they weren't getting anywhere because they were overwhelmed with too many things to do.
Mhm.
So the more we can dial it into the one thing, what's the one thing that's going to help you feel the best that you can be in that moment, for that day, for that activity, whatever you're doing, creating that intention and then taking the action that helps you get there. So that action might be taking that break after that hour of working, or even 2 hours of working, or being in the large group setting, you go outside and be completely by yourself.
Mhm. Mhm.
So yeah.
That's really interesting. And how long do you usually have your clients do that one goal before maybe adding something else to their plate?
It honestly depends on the person. It depends on their goal and what it is. But I try to have them do it for at least 30 days, for a month,
Okay.
um,
Okay.
consistently. Uh, Technically, to really, I've heard 30 days, I've heard 66 days, I've heard 90 days for creating a habit.
Yeah.
So I feel like the sweet spot might be like about 60 days. And I work with clients um, between 3 months and 6 months,
Mhm.
depending on what's going on for them. But I feel like 60 I feel like the last time I heard some research around habit creation was about 66 days. So give or
Yeah.
take. Again, it just kind of depends on the person. But again, it goes back to that daily small actions. It's not about how big you can make it. It's not how long you can make it. Like if you've never meditated before and you want to try, start out with literally meditating for 1 minute.
Mm-hmm.
Try it for a day and then try it for the week and then reevaluate. If you were able to do it, 7 days a week, then maybe adjust accordingly, 2 minutes for the next week and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how you build on goals. Or even 30 seconds really, or taking 5 deep breaths, like literally starting as small as possible. Yeah.
Yeah, interesting. And you told us a little bit about your health journey as well at the beginning. Do you feel like how do you feel like that was related with the HSP trait as well?
Yes, that's a really good question. I absolutely believe that, and this is not only for me, has been for past clients, current clients who are struggling with digestion. Because we are taking in everything and we're not necessarily understanding our energy, what's taking from our energy, what gives us energy, we have a higher tendency of becoming more stressed more easily or overstimulated more easy. And so that can lead to, indigestion, digestion problems in general. I was actually, as a baby, I was sensitive to antibiotics. And I was sensitive, sensitive just as a child around like friends. I would get my feelings hurt really easily. And those emotions really stuck with me. And I think that my digestive issues came from my inability to digest life with ease, if that makes sense.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that it was all correlated, like just being on, overly stimulated and, high stressed, then creates inflammation in the body. And I was diagnosed with an autoimmune disease and the digestion issues, health starts in the gut. And when we start to get that inflammation under control in the gut, everything else just kind of calms down. And you can find more clarity the more, less stressed you are and so forth. So yeah, I definitely believe that there is a correlation.
Yeah. And you said something else that I found really interesting. So you said that, your emotions and feelings were always really easily hurt. How is that today? And how did you figure that out?
Oh my gosh. This has been a process for me and it's ongoing. It's something that I think that I will always be working through. And I really, really noticed this. I had more awareness around it when I was teaching yoga. I started teaching daily classes, and I love teaching. I love helping people heal, and I realized that I would pick up on people's faces. When you're doing yoga and you just have an angry face sometimes, like it happens. And you're doing hard things, that you get it. But I was taking it personally. I was like, oh my gosh, they hate my classes. They're never going to come back. And I was having this story in my head that my students hated my classes. And I was like, people keep coming back. My classes are growing, Diana. Those stories don't align. And I was I realized that was a story that I had created because of my sensitivity, because I am that, I want to please people. I want to help. And also HSPs, we tend to have a lower self-esteem because we pick up on other people's emotions. Not everybody, and it also depends on your, how you grew up. But me personally, I definitely grew up with low self-esteem and low self-confidence. And as I became healthier, more confidence came. I felt more at ease in my body, more energized. And then starting to teach really was the push for me to say, this is a story you've created that's untrue. And now I can create a new story that I do believe that is reaffirming to who I am now today. And that is something that I'm dealing with, being married. It's a mirror. When you're in a relationship, you have a mirror held up to you. And I get triggered, around, he might say something that I feel is insensitive, even though that wasn't his intention.
Mm-hmm.
But because I pick up on those subtleties and I have a deep processing ability, I overthink things
Mm-hmm.
and then create this story. And so I have to like really dial that back in. And I realize I do that more when I'm not grounded in myself. I'm not doing my practices. I'm not taking care of myself by eating healthy. I'm not exercising, or I'm, all of the rituals, the practices that I know feed me in a nourishing way that help me with my energy.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah. Yeah, that's great. I think that's really helpful for people to hear. And I actually love your approach of awareness, intention, and then action, because you can apply it in anything in your life, right? Like when you create awareness around your feelings and being sensitive around that, then you set an intention and then you need to get into action to start making these little changes. So that's actually a really good, a good tool, cool tool to have. Do you have any morning routines or rituals that you do in order to kind of set yourself up for success in the morning?
oh my gosh, yes, I do. And I'm like getting goosebumps just thinking about it because it's like my favorite thing to do. And full transparency, I was traveling the last 10 days. So my routine gets a little bit messed up and
Mhm.
just not doing normal things. So I didn't get to do my morning routine like I normally like to when I'm at home. And I could feel my energy shift when I got home and was able to do my practices again.
Mhm.
um, and that's not to say I didn't do some of the practices, but my typical morning routine is, to wake up early. I like to wake up early and just start the day with immediately drinking water, because that's going to help me just rehydrate from the night before, and also helps me, go to the bathroom. And then I like to walk. I go on a walk with my husband. We walk the dog, and then I actually shifted away from coffee just probably 4 months ago. I was realizing that coffee was really making me feel anxious and overstimulated, and so I shifted to cacao, which has way less caffeine, and it's been an incredible change for me, and it's my favorite ritual to make my cacao drink. And then I'll go do my journaling. I'll journal my dreams, which HSPs tend to have really vivid dreams as well,
Mhm.
which has been a really fun practice for me to journal them and just see all of the different connections that you can make through dream processing.
Mhm.
Um, and then with my dreams, I then journal my intentions for the day, just like all the things that I want to do, and really just prioritize the things that I want to get done for the
Mhm.
day. And then Kundalini, I've been doing a Kundalini practice, which has been a godsend. It's really my favorite part of my morning routine. Energetically, it just like uplifts me, and it really feels cleansing and grounding too at the same time.
What does that look
Um,
like? Is it a breathing? Like, can you explain that? Is it a breathing
yeah,
technique or?
yeah. So Kundalini, the practice that I do is it's a basic warm up practice to start out with, and it's very quick breathing. It's
Mhm.
um, it's like those sorts of breaths, along with certain movements like shoulder shrugs and drops. You can do twists doing that, even like a cat cow doing that quick breathing. And
Mhm.
it doesn't have to necessarily be as quick as I just did. It can be slower, or it can be even faster, just depending on how you're feeling and such. But I've been practicing Kundalini for now probably since last March. I started practicing it regularly, and it's been a really big game changer for me, as far as my energy goes. Just having consistent energy. And then I like to do vinyasa, just like move my body, some salutations, sorts of things.
Yeah.
Um, or I'll do like a yoga glow class, or like dancing or trampoline. I like to leave my morning routine a little flowy and there for interpretation, however I'm feeling in the time. Some people might like really like disciplined morning routines, which I used to like, but I've kind of fallen away from that as I've embraced more of my feminine, like fluid side, if you
More
will.
fun side, yeah. And that sounds like a lot. So I'm sure a lot of people might be wondering, how long does it take you to do all of these different things? How much time do you account for that in the morning?
That actually is a lot. I'm like saying it aloud. Those are all my favorite things to do. I don't necessarily do them all for as long as I'd like. Like some days I do give myself like a full 2 hours to do
Mhm.
all of that. And
Mhm.
some days I have an hour or even a half an hour. If I have in a half an hour, I'll wake up, drink water, cacao, journal like 3 things I'm grateful for, and do, a quick 15-minute yoga practice.
Mhm.
And, it's that. So
Yeah.
it kind of just depends on the day. But if I have the time, I will absolutely do all of it.
Cool. Okay, yeah, that's really helpful because I think a lot of people always think, oh, how am I supposed to do all of these different things? But it's all about planning, right? It's all about getting to bed at a good time and then waking up earlier in order to have time to do all of these different things. I love my morning routine as well. So, yeah, awesome. Do you have, besides the book that you already mentioned earlier, The Highly Sensitive Person, do you have any other books that maybe are related to the topic or maybe totally unrelated that you feel like changed how you think about your life?
Um, the one that came to mind was The Power of Your Subconscious Mind by Joseph Murphy.
Mm.
And that was eye-opening. Just the power of our mind in and of itself. We use like, I don't even know what the percentage is, but a very small percentage of our mind power.
Mhm.
And if you think about intention, it's all about what we believe is true. Shifting our beliefs, and then we're shifting our thoughts and emotions, and then we're shifting our words and actions, and then we're literally shifting our reality to what we believe. Right. So if we believe that the world is a scary, dark, fearful place, then ultimately that's the reality that's going to be created.
Mhm.
And then the opposite is also true. If you create like an easeful life, and an expansive life, if you will, those sorts of things are going to show up in your life just because that's how the world works. That's how energy works, right? Like attracts like.
Mhm. Mhm.
So The Power of Your Subconscious Mind by Joseph Murphy was, it's one of my favorite books, and I try to listen to it regularly. And as I'm saying that, it's time to listen to it again.
Nice. Okay, good. So we got
Yeah.
a goal for you as well.
Yes. Yes.
Great. And how can people reach out to you or connect with you if they want to follow your journey or maybe get even coaching from you?
Totally. So my website is my name, DianaEisiminger.com. And, I'd love to have you on my newsletter, connect that way. Otherwise, I'm on Instagram at Diana_Eisiminger as well. And those are my two main places that they can reach out. On my website, my email is there that they can connect there. And yeah, I would love to connect with whoever is interested in
Yeah,
learning more.
that sounds great. I will
Yeah.
make sure to put all of the details in the show notes and also send me that link for the assessment if people are an
Yeah,
HSP. I think a lot of people might be curious to do that. So that will be
sure.
really wonderful.
For sure.
Awesome.
Totally.
Have we talked about everything, Diana? Have we covered all of the things that we wanted to talk about?
Yeah, I really think we did. I feel like this conversation went so well and so easeful, and that was my intention for
Awesome.
this morning. Yeah.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, no, it's really such a fascinating topic. And I think hopefully, some people will listen to this podcast episode and think I'm also an HSP and now can work more with that trait and be really clear on what they need to do in order to manage their energy levels. Because it's so funny for me always that it goes always back to just this really simple thing of you need to practice basically self-care and you need to know what's good for
Mm.
you and what's not good for you and how you get your energy drained and how you fuel your energy. But yeah, I think we cannot talk enough about it because people still need to learn it.
And one last thing I will add about being HSP and the journey of learning who I am as an individual is all about self-trust and trusting that, trusting my intuition, trusting that I am capable of being strong and disciplined too. As an HSP, we have this tainted view that being sensitive is actually a negative thing, and feeling your feelings is not a good thing to do because, you're just overly emotional. But if we're connecting to that part of ourselves and having awareness and creating intention around it being a gift rather than a detriment, it can be so like life-giving and so exciting. And that's I feel like I'm on this mission as, a gut health coach to help HSPs like embrace that part of themselves, because it's so important. If there's only 20% of the population that is HSP, then we need to find them and help them, support them, and so they can support themselves, ultimately taking care of themselves better. So
I'm so glad that you're saying that. Because especially I feel like in the corporate world as well, right? All of these traits like that sensitivity is always seen a little bit as a weakness. So turning basically your mindset around and thinking about it as your strength and how you can apply that in that context from a power perspective, I think is a really cool way to look at it. So I'm glad you said that. Thank you.
Yeah, I have goosebumps. Yes.
Cool. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Diana. It was such a pleasure to have you on the podcast. And I hope that people will reach out to you and talk with you and follow your journey as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much. This was so much fun. I really appreciate it being on here with you. Yeah.
My pleasure.